Hello folks, I hope there's somebody in the live chat at the moment who can confirm whether the sound and video is coming through okay. Hopefully it is, and hopefully I'll see you at past. Catch you later. Hello, good evening. Welcome to this extra edition of Ian Studio Live. Not many of you out there live. According to the stats I have in front of me, there's just 3 of you at the moment. So hello Gary, hello Peter, hello Bob. I'm assuming it's the 3 of you that are showing up on the stats. I thought that might be the case, and I'm assuming that everyone else, you're going to catch up on this on one of the recordings. Well, not one of the recordings, on the recorded version, the catch-up version on YouTube. So let's get started on this. It's only going to be a short show, and oh, typo already on there about this show, not shows. This is a bonus show, as I said, and it's predominantly so we can catch up on the feedback, because I'm behind on it with the Sunday shows. Okay, my stats don't make any sense. Hi Jill, I see you've joined us. Oh no, it has gone up to 4 now. That's starting to make a bit more sense on there. It was telling me I got 3 viewers, but 4 of you in the chat. There we go. Right, yeah, it's a bonus one. It's not going to be a long one. I just want to go through the images for the previous week, which was all about quirky portraits. Hi Kev, who's just joined us as well. And it's gone up to 7 now. People are arriving. Great, good to see it. For anyone who is watching this on the recorded version and is thinking, what the hell is this I have just tuned into? Well, this is, as I say, is a bonus one. The normal show is on Sunday evening at 7:30. I have a general topic that we look at, and I provide feedback on people's photography during the show. I've got a little bit of time tonight for any live Q&A that comes in. I've got nothing pre-prepared on that. If you do have any questions, maybe it comes out of the things we're going to look at in the feedback section on this. Do put it in the live chat. If you can't do that and you're watching on the replay, stick it in the comments. I will read it and I will reply to it. I see more joining now. Hi Stuart as well on there. Or you can always email me during the week. As ever, if you are new to this, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and the little bell that goes alongside it. That's important actually, because that's the way you'll get the notifications. The subscribe without that, well, it does do something. You'll get it in your YouTube feed, but you won't get the notifications on there. So do that. If you're watching any of the videos on replay, do add a comment on there, and like the video as well. So there's 8 of you now. We're obviously getting some more on here. Go hit that like button. It's somewhere down below this video as you're watching it on there, and then I know you're actually watching. Somebody hit the dislike button last week. You're not on my good list. No, any interaction's better than none. So whoever you were, thank you for that. That all helps. Right. If you have the option to share links to the show, actually, I've been thinking about this. I'll probably mention this again on Sunday. If you feel you can't share links to the show, or you haven't got an audience to do that, but you think you can share links to the Facebook group, that is another great way to get people involved, because not everyone wants to sit through a YouTube thing, a YouTube show each week, but they might benefit from being part of the Facebook group. So if you have the option to share the details of the Facebook group, that would be also fantastic as well. So so do that if you get the chance. Because it is a great place to really for people to learn, ask questions, get feedback on their images. My Buy Me a Cuppa thing. You'll notice there's no name on the cup tonight. That's because it is an extra show, and I didn't want to put somebody's name on there thinking, and then to think, oh, I'm only getting recognition to 8 people. So I didn't think that was fair. So instead, what I want to do is just say thank you to everyone who has bought me a cuppa. It's been fantastic over the last couple of weeks since I've started doing this. So many people have done that, and you'll all get your recognition. You'll all get your names on the mug at some point as we go on. But in addition to that, I'm trying to work on a sort of special thank you to those who have donated. And I've got something in mind, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to announce it on Sunday. If it all goes to plan, then Sunday you'll know what it is and how it's all going to work. It's just a way of me saying thanks for the support, because I really do appreciate it. Times are hard, and I'm reliant on basically any bit of income I can get these days. So those cups of tea not only are helpful financially, but they're a real encouragement to me as well. So anyway, enough of that. I just wanted to say thanks on there. So the Facebook group, if you don't know about it, that's the link over my shoulder. It's a place where you can share photos. It's where all the images I'm going to talk about tonight have been pulled from. So the live stream really these days works hand in hand with that Facebook group. So if you're watching the live stream regularly, do make sure you're part of the Facebook group, monitor what's going on there, and get involved. I'd like to encourage you folks, particularly those of you who are watching tonight, because I presume you're watching because you want feedback on your own images and you want to learn from the feedback. I'll tell you the best way to improve your photography and to learn to analyze images is not to ask for feedback. It's to give feedback in a constructive way, in a way that helps people, because when you do that, you have to think about things objectively, and doing that really does help you understand what you do yourself. You won't always get things right. Goodness knows I don't, and I'm doing this all the time. But if you are seeing images on the Facebook group, I'd like to encourage everyone to actually get involved with giving feedback on there, even if it's just a few words. Don't just say, yeah, that's a nice image. Say, yeah, that's a nice image because of this, or that didn't quite work. Have you thought about that? And doing things that way. So yeah, I just want to encourage people to get involved with the Facebook group, as well as sharing their own photos, commenting on others. So what have we got on the show tonight? Well, there's only 2 things. It's image feedback and then the live Q&A at the end. And I can see 1 question's come in already from Gary. I've lost it now. It was something about tripods. Oh yes, there it is. Any recommendations on tripods? I will endeavour to do that at the end on there. So yeah, as I say, put your questions in the chat for that. Hi Sue, who's just joined us as well. So numbers are going up. I still think I've got more in the live chat than I have showing up as my concurrent viewers. I don't know how the system works. Right, live feedback. Let me get Lightroom up on my screen. Now at this point I can now no longer see the chat on there. So I think, how many images have I got on here? 24. So when I get to 12, right, yeah, okay, when I get to the 12th image, when I get to John's image, which is this one of the flowers, I'll pop over and have a look at the chat again before continuing to see what's going on. Right, so let's have a look at these images. They were all submitted during the week when we were looking at quirky portraits. They're not all quirky portraits. We've got some generic and general stuff there as well. And that is one of the things about the group. Although I set a theme, I don't want to restrict people to just that theme during the week. The idea of the theme is that sometimes if it's just completely free and open, nobody posts anything. But by having that theme, it sort of focuses the mind on a particular area. You might think, oh yes, I've got an image about that. Or, oh yeah, I'd like to photograph that. And it encourages you to do something rather than, yeah, it's free, you can post anything. People don't tend to post. But equally, I don't want to restrict it to that, because there may be things that people are working on that they just need a little bit of help with. So that's where we're at. Right, so let's go full screen on this. There we go, and then full screen on that. Right, so the first image I'm looking at tonight is one by Anthony Barker. I hope you'll see this on the replay, Anthony, because Anthony posted this. This is a photo of his wife, and he said he was really pleased with the image, and I agree. It's, hang on, I don't believe this. Remember, I changed all my shortcut keys because they were also doing things in Lightroom. Well, they're still doing things in Lightroom when I'm trying to just change things with the broadcasting software. That's weird. Anyway, sorry for that slight distraction. Let's go back to what I'm trying to do, which is, that should be a fit on there. Right, okay. Anthony said that he was sure that somebody else could do the editing better than him. Actually, you've not done bad on it, Anthony. Just a couple of points to say with it. Normally, I'd say don't do straight-on portraits, but actually, this one works. We've got because of the symmetry on it. So the straight on has actually worked on it. The first thing to say about it is the image needs the horizontals fixing on here. You can see we've got a bit of a tilt with the horizon and with that. So really easy to do this. Let's go over to the develop module, and I shall go down to transform. Now here in Lightroom, I'm using the transform tool. In Snapseed, there is a tool in there which will allow you to do it as well. I'm going to do guided. I could do it on the horizontal one, which is what you would do in the likes of Snapseed. But you can see with the horizontal one, I need to rotate with it as well on there. So that's gone part way with it. But it's not quite working on there. You can do it all manually. What you'd have to do is you'd have to apply a little bit of a rotate first, probably to about there, and then horizontal, try and straighten that up. No, it's going the wrong way. Actually, this is why I use the guided tool. Can we do it to get it both straight? Yeah, a little bit more horizontal on there. And that's more or less done it like that. Anyway, having said that, I'm just going to reset everything on there, and I'm going to do guided because it's so much quicker just to do that, and then on there to do that, and that will straighten all that up properly. The verticals are more or less right on there. I don't need to do much with that. I am going to just scale it down because I want to try and get as much of the hair in as possible. That's not going to be possible. Now, this is the other thing, Anthony, with this shot, is it's very close to the top of the frame. This is where we start having problems. So one solution is, instead of having it right at the top there like that, which looks odd, I can't find a way to bring it all out, is to actually come in and make it look as though it's a deliberate tight crop on it, which I think will work with this. So put my guide tools down, and I'm just going to bring, oh, this is a tricky one because I think the context of the table is quite nice with it. So I'm going to go with that. So we've got that. That's the first thing. Now, it's very, very slightly dark in the blacks on there. So what I would do with that is just a very slight rise of the shadow tones on there. It doesn't need much. It's still plugged up, not very much at all on there. So that's looking quite nice actually with that. I don't think it needs much else doing. I've just realized something on here. I've just noticed that some of my default settings have been applied, which is clarity and vibrance, which were down. That's, as I've brought them in, unfortunately I managed to leave my defaults on because of something else I was doing. It can take a little bit of vibrance on there and just a fraction of clarity. I would also bring the highlights down very slightly on there, and that's looking quite nice. Would it be better in black and white? I'm not sure. Let's have a look at my standard sort of black and white settings. It has a very different feel to it in black and white, certainly in that version of it. Oh, that's pale. Let me browse for a better one for it. Oh, we got. I would go perhaps something like that if I was going black and white, but you know, I'm not really sure that I want black and white with there, so I'd just go to colour. I like that slightly muted effect with the colour, so I wouldn't want to bring the vibrance up very much on it at all. If anything, I'd like to take down that little bit of pink there. So we can do that on HSCL. So what I'm going to do, I'm on the saturation here. I select that and then just pull that down, and in theory it's not affected anything else, but just desaturating it slightly down to about there would do it. I'm not sure it needs a vignette. Let's see. Oh, maybe just a fraction on there. Not much at all needed with that, especially if I feather it off as well. And I would do something like that, Anthony, with that image, that kind of processing. So it always has trouble with the crops when I do a before and after on this, but if I do before and after, so it's mainly that dealing with the tilt, straightening everything up on there is the main thing, and then with the that magenta, making it a little bit more muted. So that would be my work on that one. So let's move on. Another one of Anthony's now, and this sort of came in over the weekend sort of time. I think this was in connection with street photography. Just to explain, just to explain to everyone what I actually mean by street photography. I think most people have got it. Street photography tends to be candid photos of people in the street, or apparently candid photos of people in the street and out and about. Yes, it can include photos of streets, but that's not quite what I meant. So I don't know whether that was a misunderstanding, Anthony, with submitting there. And what I would say about this shot is I think I'm not going to correct the verticals on it because it would take it up even too high, even further off there. The camera just needed to be either a wider angle so that we can see a bit more of the street. The street is the main thing here, and I'm assuming this is the Royal Mile up in Edinburgh. I might be wrong, but I think that's what it will be on there. But what we really need to see is more of the Royal Mile itself with it. And I think the answer to that is to tilt down. Instead of trying to get this top section, if you concentrated on only going this high, so you've got the tower there. Is that camera obscura? It might be. I'm not sure. And the steeple in, and ignore that chimney for this one. You could have got a bit more of the street in there, and that would have made that a better shot. Bob, I know Bob's watching. This is MV Columbus, a ship I know well, and I have been on 3 times, I think, 2 or 3 times anyway. And alas, now sold. So we don't know what the future holds for her. Nice black and white conversion. I like the fact that it's low down in the frame on there. Maybe a little too over-aggressive with the black conversion on there. That's the colour one. And I'm going to do a quick conversion of it myself and see what I can do. Now, we have got resolution on here, so let's fit that on there. So right, the first thing to do with this is to choose a profile that I'm going to work with. So let's have a look. And blue filter, red filter, that does make that very dark on there. I think it takes that section to be just too dark, to be honest. Right, simple monochrome. No, this is a tricky one because I want to maintain some of that. What is going to be best? Right, right, let's see what we get with black and white 10. I'm going to go with that as my start point. So now close there, and on the black and white tab now I can control the colours independently. So that area down there, which I think is getting a little bit too dark, I can then lighten up just a fraction. I don't want to go too far with it, but it's enough to deal with the darkness up there. Now, I would also do a crop on this, because those 2 little bits of dark up there were pulling my eye, which is unusual because it's normally the light areas that do that. So I would actually crop those out. And then to create an interesting look with this, I would go with a graduated filter. Full screen. And what I would do is from about here, let me reset everything. I'd take the exposure down a little, take the highlights down and the shadows down on this, and I'm just going to draw in something along there. Now that's kind of darkened everything, which is not quite what I want. So I can now have a play with this and just try and give me a little bit more interest in this. There we go. That's probably more what I need. Perhaps a little bit less on the exposure. Just bring that to there. Right. So what's that's telling me? I've now got some interest up at the top. I'd like to get a bit more interest around here, and I think that's going to have to be with clarity. So I'm going to come out of the graduated filter, and I want to try and get some interest there. Now, before I go to the trouble of painting it all in on that, what I'm going to do is I just want to see the effect of clarity on it. And I'm just looking at this mid area. So let me just whack the clarity right up. It makes it a little bit dark, but it does bring out some detail, which I quite like. And I don't think that's too bad. Again, it's a little bit dark in that area. So now I'm going to use a local adjustment brush with it and reset. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to bring the exposure up, but I'm going to make sure I've got really low flow on here. So now I can just start to paint on there. And you see how that just begins to lighten that area, so it's not quite so dark with it. So there we go. And I can lighten that bit just a fraction. And I think also I might just try putting a bit of clarity into the clarity. Clarity is not helping on it. What will the dehaze do? Yeah, if I take the dehaze down a little bit, and that's effectively adding haze into that section I've just painted on. I think that's more interesting for the sky. The ship's working okay, so that's before, that's after with it. Before, after. Now let's compare this with Bob's version. That was Bob's version, and that's mine. So again, it's a slightly different approach to it, a slightly different look on the image. Just thought I'd go through that just to give you alternatives, Bob. Right, this one's an image by David Jones, and this one puzzled me. I really love the sort of the characteristic of it, the look that that we've got on here, and the style of it. But there's something about the skin tones on there, and they're almost luminescent. And I asked David how he'd done that, and his response was, I can't remember, which is a shame because I'm really wondering what he's done with it to get that effect with it. There's just something about it. It must be something that's been done in post-production, but I can't quite work out what it is. I suspect it involves a local adjustment brush. There is one interesting thing about this, is when it's been converted to black and white, David's left a little bit of colour in the in some of the fingers there. So I'm not quite sure how he's done the conversion. Again, that might be part of that effect that's going on there. But the overall effect of it is really interesting, and it is a really nice effect. So if anyone does know how it's done, please let me know. If there's one thing I don't like, it's the arm that's exiting the frame and coming back in. But I think I'm going to have to forgive it this time. And normally that's something you don't do, because it leaves the image with a bit of a quandary. Because the arms are coming in to the frame, it almost looks as though it could be somebody else's hands doing that rather than the subject's hands. But nice shot on there. With that, why have I got an adjustment brush enabled? Don't want that. So move on to the next one. Right, Gary, who is in the live stream tonight, two images here. The Thanos snap for the Marvel MCU fans on there. Gary did this twice. Once a bit more coarse like that, and then the finer version. Now, I know various ways of doing that kind of effect using brushes. I don't know the technique used for this sort of 3D version that you've got here and the sort of coarser effect. Now, I sort of quite like the effect, but I think for this to work properly, there needs to be, the pose needs to go with it. So, for example, you might have the side-on view, person reaching out and then the hand disintegrating, that type of thing, where the pose works with it, or the look on the face. You know that Scream image that I did the work on Sunday? Something like that, the sort of screaming and then the edges sort disintegrating. That sort of thing will work. I'd like to see the pose working with the effect, or the effect working with the pose on it. The other thing that is, I quite like the larger version on it. I know that's not the Thanos effect, but I do actually quite like it. But for the material part here, the finer one works really well, the sand effect, but it doesn't work so well here on the face, because when I first saw this, I thought you'd converted her into some form of elf first, because it looks like, well, Ferengi or something like that, because you've got this huge ear here that's disintegrating, is how it looks when I first saw the image. So I would be inclined to perhaps be a little bit more careful, perhaps use a mixture of the two, so that perhaps less of the big chunks on the shoulder and on the coat, the fur coat, but more of them, with round the ear, so you don't get this weird elf effect on there. So, but it's a good execution of the techniques, Gary, with it. I've never really done this myself. I know how to do it, but I've never done it, or this version of it. And I certainly have never done the 3D version, because I'm not too sure on the best way to achieve that one. I suspect it's a different brush to, I think that's what's going on, unless there's something else weird. And I'll check the comments for anything that you've been adding in a moment on there. Ian submitted this one. Again, quite like it. It's actually the very first ever studio hire here at this studio, all the way back in 2011. It's the first time my studio was hired. The one thing I don't like is this hands sort of just entering the frame from nowhere on that. I would like to see at least the hint of the upper arm coming into the frame with it, and the turn of the head, the nose a little bit close to the cheekbone on there, and perhaps I'd like to see a couple of extra bubbles up there. This one you could potentially clone and add a little bit higher up, but yeah, it works. James has submitted this one. I'm presuming it's some form of cosplay character. It looks like a Rapunzel to me, and what I like about this is the shallow depth of field. We've got a little bit of foreground bokeh in the grass down here. The background's out of focus with it. It's framed probably the best that you could do with this in terms of her height and the tower there. You either lose the tower and come in, or you frame it like this. I don't dislike the framing on it. I think it's a nice choice to shoot from really low down, so it's at ground level along. And I do like that approach to images, and I'd like to encourage more people to think about doing that. I see it too many times, people standing in close, high up, and it provides a distortion. The distortion that this gives is very flattering. So that choice of angle to shoot from really works well. Another one from James, which is his fake publicity poster for Jessica Jones, and it's based around the idea of Kilmore, the David Tennant character, who I know from the comics as the Purple Man, thus the purple colours. And what he's used is a template where you can just throw an image behind and it looks like it's been made up of various Polaroids. Now, I do like that idea. The only problem I have with it is it's too perfect an alignment for it. So I would like to see something like this done with the individual images not being quite aligned properly. So maybe this image, I go full screen, and right, hang on. Oh, scrubby slider, that's what I'll use. Yeah, maybe this image, this one ought to be just that little bit tilted. Now I know with the template that James is using that it's not possible to do that because they're all pre-aligned. But I'm thinking of having a go at this sort of effect myself, and which means I'm going to have to create my own template for it, and I need to have a think about how I can then make sure that the individual images are just slightly out of line with each other, because I think that would work better. Now, the other thing with this is I know that it's designed to be quite dark, but personally, I'd like to see just a fraction more light, particularly over on this side. So again, I'd probably do something like reset the exposure and I think something like that, and then just gradually increase that exposure and that saturation. Ooh, it's tricky. It's gone. No, what do I need? A little bit of clarity, I think. Something like that. Just so I can see that bit a little bit. You know, I'm not sure now. I'm really not. You see, the problem is, because this side's bright, my eye's being drawn away from where it should be. Let me go back a few stops to the original, which is there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure on that one. I just find my eye being pulled away from it. But it's a nice concept, James. Thank you for submitting it, and I do like it. I think it is very much in keeping with the show as well. Now, John has submitted this one. He actually submitted several images. John has a habit of going to these really wild, out of the way, Arctic, Antarctic, I think it's Arctic places, and I find this just scary, to be honest. On there, I think it's a great shot. It captures it really well. Personally, I'd like to see a little bit more of the context of it as well, and I'd like to see a little bit more, instead of being quite that close in on the framing. I'd just like to be out just a fraction. To me, that feels just a little bit too tight, because I'd like to see the context that the person is in as well. I think you don't have to come out very far to achieve that, but I think that would help. Oh, what? Yeah. Oh, right, moving on. Right, John, I think this was the one I said I would then go out and check the chat with. So let's have a look at that. And I need to move over and have a look. Right, so what have we got in here? The comment about tripods. Thanks. Set of 3D brushes for creating the bigger particles. Yeah, okay, that makes sense on the way that that particular effect was achieved on there. So no further comments on there. In which case, I'd better go back to the images. And yeah, here we go. One of John's images, John Barton's images, and it's a lovely shot. I really like the way the light's coming through the plant, but as ever, these bright areas, and I know this is important to the image, they're pulling my eye away. And I just wonder, and I haven't tried this beforehand, whether just that would be enough to still give the effect of the bokeh behind, but then it leaves the eye more on the plant rather than being drawn up to that bright corner on there. With that. Another one from John. This is a before and after. That's his before shot, and that's the after shot. And I need to just get that to fit in there, in both of them. So before and after. Now now I know John hasn't done this in Lightroom. Oh, it's really annoying me. I need to sort out some new shortcut keys that don't change the image size whenever I change them. Right, I'm going to have a go to the original. I'm going to have a go myself at editing this in Lightroom. Now, John, you'll need to find the equivalent tools in the package that you're using. I think you might be on Affinity, but I'm not 100% sure on that off the top of my head. So first thing I don't like this bit jutting in here, so let's lose that off there. Do I need all the trees and the boats? I'm not sure. I'm going to leave the framing and the cropping till later. I'm going to start by using the dehaze slider. The dehaze slider is really, really powerful here in Lightroom. And that's as far as I really want to go with it. That's still cut through and it seems to be doing the effect that we want. We've brought back that detail. Also, if I do a little bit with the clarity as well, so we've got that. But we've got some autumn colours here that I really would like to bring out. So if I bring the shadows up a fraction, but bring the vibrance up, what happens? There we go. We're starting to get those colours coming in. Now, the white balance on it, I'm wondering whether we just need to warm that up a little bit. Again, that's brought those colours out. And looking down here, I think we've got a little bit of blown out highlights there. So if I bring that down just a fraction to deal with that, that's starting to look quite good. Next, you know where I'm going with this. I think it definitely needs a vignette on it, just to keep us into the middle of it. So just bring that down slightly, feather it up. And then do I need to bring it up a bit? Yeah, I think just something like that. And that's the sort of edit I would be doing on there. Bit of contrast, perhaps. Just a fraction of contrast in there as well. And I think that would be my edit. Now, how different is that to John's? Let's have a look. Oh, wrong way. That was John's, and that's mine. So you see how I've brought the detail out there, not lost it in the shadows with it. That would be the way I'd go with that, John. So think about trying that sort of approach with it. There's a lot gone into that, but there's lots of little things rather than one big change really to make it work. And if necessary, John, play back this and watch as much the thought process as I was talking through it. And I just want to, one of the things I want to say is that I hadn't planned that beforehand. I just knew that there should be another way of doing it. And there's the before and after with it. It's quite a change on there. Hope you like the effects of it, and perhaps have a go with your own software and see whether you can get something similar to that. So moving on. Again, more from John. Nice black and white conversions of the cats, and I think this has worked quite well. Maybe it's gone a little bit over on the clarity bit. I've taken off my import effects on here because I didn't want extra clarity on it at all, and that's looking nice. The only thing to watch is how close this paw is to the bottom of the frame. I think it's a good image. It's nice to have the paw reaching out into the shot, but just try and avoid it being quite so close to the frame on there. Now this one works so much better because the cat's more engaged with the viewer. The paw's still reaching out. It's not clipped at the bottom. It's getting close on the edge, but I think we can live with that on there. And I don't know whether you've done it in post-production or not, but you've darkened down some of those lighter areas. I don't think they're a problem on this one. The cat's so much. Let me take that extra clarity that I accidentally put on off. So I think that one works nicely on there. So well done with that, John. Less convinced on this one, I'm afraid, Peter. Sorry, but this sort of posterization, solarization effects, they do absolutely nothing for me, I'm afraid. It just doesn't work. I'm really sorry to have to say that. For me, it doesn't work. I would have gone much more black and white with it, something like that. Maybe that would help deal with the brightness in behind. I'm not sure. I'd be interested to know, I know you're in the chat, Peter, why you chose to do that. What was your aim with it? Because once I know that, then perhaps I can give some more constructive advice on what might have been the better technique for it, because I don't think that's worked. I hate saying that. I'd like to be a bit more constructive, but as you know, folks, I'll never give I'll not say something is good when I think it's not worked. Let's move on. Yeah, this one from Rick. Again, I'm just going to go full screen and do that. I know Rick posted this to indicate about you can have smiley expressions and neutral expressions, and it does make that the pair of images that he posted does make a good point. But there's one other thing I've noticed about this. It's a nice black and white conversion. It's done exactly as we've been talking about, that nice tones in there. We've got some nice bright areas, dark areas, good contrast, all that. But there's camera tilt. Now, one of the things with a tilt, if you're going to put a tilt in, make it an obvious one, or don't put it in at all. So if I can go two ways with this. If I take it out, that's probably the straight up effect, and so that I'm not clipping the hair, if I do that, that's the straight up. And I think that over, let me bring my history in here. So you can see once you've done it that we've got that tilt on there. So I'm just going to save a snapshot and we'll call it straight. Let's reset. The other way you could go with an image like this is, things about tilts are interesting, but if you're going to put one in, it's got to be an obvious and deliberate one. So you could go with something like that, or even slightly further, and that also works. So if I just save another snapshot, tilt, and I go back to the import and save a snapshot and say original, I've now got the three over here on the snapshot, so we can easily compare them. We've got original, which I think is just slightly off, straight, or tilt. Original, straight, or tilt. I quite like the tilt on there, and I think that tilt works with the expression. The straight one does as well, but I don't think it's quite as interesting as the one with the tilt on it. So that would be my suggestion, Rick, if you watch this one on there. Right, now, Sue. Right, Sue, I know you posted 4 images here, all to do with sky replacements. And you referred to them as before and after. What you didn't say was which is which. And I've gone on record last Sunday as saying I'm not a big fan of sky replacements. So please take what I'm about to say with a big pinch of salt, because this is my personal opinion on it. I'll back it up with what I see, and I'll explain why I'm saying what I'm going to say. But I can see immediately that the sky has been replaced on these images, and I think I know which is which, even though you've not said. And to be honest, I prefer the original images on both occasions. Now, I know the reason you posted them was probably more about experimenting and showing what can be done. Let me talk through. I believe this is one of the original, is an original image of the two. Just to say, actually, it's slightly underexposed, just needs a little bit more light onto it, and that would be probably how it ought to look on there. But the sky replacement image is this one. How do I know it's sky replacement? Because as we look at those clouds, that is clouds as you would see if you looked straight up. Well, so more that sort of angle, not as you would see if you look straight in front of you, which is where the shot is. And this is where I have problems with sky replacements, because most of the time when people do sky replacements, they don't replace the sky with something that matches properly, either in terms of lighting or in terms of the cloud patterns which work with everything else. So that's my thoughts on it. So I would say that sky doesn't belong with that image. It looks to me that it doesn't fit there. Now, this is where it could be horribly embarrassing, and you could be typing away in the chat at the moment going, ha ha, Ian, you got them the wrong way round. But I'm pretty sure I'm right that this is the replaced one, because to me that sky does not look natural on there, and I think it just needs a bit more vibrance to it as well. I'm just going to go back to that one and give it a little bit more vibrance, not quite that much, a bit of saturation to it that way. That to me looks nicer, much nicer than that one. Now, here's the other pair. We've got that one and we've got that one. Right, which is the replaced sky? Now, here's the interesting thing with this one. We look at the tree. Now I can't. Can I go in any closer? Oh, I'm going to use my scrubby slider on here. And what looks odd to me on this is how the sky goes from light. I go full screen so you can see it. Goes from blue to white very quickly either side. So that doesn't look natural to me. And equally, we've got the same thing here. There's something odd going on, and I'm almost inclined to say that this is a trick, Sue. You're trying to catch me out, and I would say both of these have got something odd has been going on with the sky, because that does not look right to me on there either. In fact, it looked worse on this one, that bit of sky looks lighter than just outside the tree on it. The rest of the image looks nice, and I like the rest of the image, but there's something weird going on with the sky, certainly on that one, but I think on this one as well with it. I prefer this one to the deep blue sky. I think it needs a little bit more exposure, maybe in the shadows, just to bring out the detail like that, and a little bit more, oh, not too much, just a touch more saturation on there like that. So I'm just looking at the other bits of this up at the top round here. On there, I'd be interested to see how that looks on the other one. Yeah, this is weird on there. Oh, excuse me. There's something odd with both of them. Tell me in the live chat on there. Now, I am going to have a proper look at sky replacement, and I know Matt Klaskowski has done a big tutorial on how to use it. Now, I don't always agree with stuff that Matt does, but one thing I can say about his tutorials is that he does go into details very clearly, and it gives you he'll give you a lot of information. So if you have a look for Matt Klaskowski on YouTube, his website is mattk.com on there, and look at his tutorials on how to do the sky replacement. I've not watched it myself yet, but I know he's going into a lot of detail on there, so that would be a good one to have a look at on it. I'm just going to nip over to the chat, because before I move off this one, just to see what Sue's actually put while I've been rabbiting on. So, and okay, what have we got? Oh yeah, it's right. Right. Peter with his cat, he was just playing with the tones. Yeah, Sue saying it's an experiment. I have got them the right way around on the first one. Good. Yeah. Right. So Sue put her own sky in there. Both are replacements on the poppy field on that, and the tree was in the field. Right. I'd be very interested, Sue, perhaps you want to post in the Facebook group on that thread what the original image looked like for that poppy field one. It could be interesting to see how that how it compares. But yeah, nice try at catching me out by on a before and after by having 2 replacement skies. You nearly got me. I'll let you all into a little secret now. It's not a secret really, but one of the reasons I will probably get the skies and spot the errors in them more than most people is that I used to work for the Met Office, and I was trained. I did a 3-month residential course in meteorology where we had to study the sky, and for years and years afterwards I would spend a lot of time just looking up at clouds, and because of that, when clouds are out of place, it sticks out like a sore thumb to me. It really does. So that's the little bit of it. You might have tried to catch me out with 2 replacement skies, but I need to come clean at this point and say that, yeah, I spotted it because I have got some inside knowledge into clouds. So I think we're probably even, Sue, on that one. Okay. Right, let's get back to the other ones. There we go. Right. On we go. Right, yeah, Walter. I don't know whether I don't think you're watching live, but some nice portraits here. Quite like this. Just a couple of, I like the horizontal format with it. That works well. The lighting on the eyes works well. I'm not so keen on this shadow going over here. There's not a lot difficult to do something about that with it. Just again, it's to do with the positioning of where the light is on there. I would try and give just a little bit more space or a little bit less space. I think cutting through the boobs doesn't quite work with this one. It just needs that little bit more, but it's a nice shot, a nice rim lighting over on the side, picking out the hair. I think the top of this side of the hat's just that little bit dark, and I would be tempted to do one of my sort of very gradual increases on here, just to lighten it up very, very slightly, like that. That's all it needs, just to bring it in line with everything else in the image. So before and after, you can see it's not much, but it just brings it back in line with everything else in there on that. So I'd be tempted to do that with it. But other than that, nice shot. Just watch those shadows on there. So it's light's coming in from here. So we've got light coming through. Yeah, just watch the shadows, Walter. This one, again, most of you will know what I'm going to say on this. No. Shortcut keys every time. I need to do something about it. Right. Yeah, what I'm going to say about it is I think it's just that little bit underexposed for my liking. I know it's a trend to do this sort of slightly underexposed look, but it doesn't need much. It's what, half a stop, if that, third of a stop even, would just be enough to bring it up, and a little bit more maybe on the shadows, because we're losing the detail down here with it. Maybe just bring the clarity up. Now this is one of those, no. I want to see more of the detail down here. I don't want to lose things up there. I think we need a bit more clarity. I think this has used negative clarity to soften the skin at the expense of the hair. So I think we need to paint the clarity in on the hair with it. So bring that up and bring the flow up. Whoa, that's got the exposure on as well. Yeah, so just on the hair like that. So that sort of thing. Have I got exposure? No, that really is just the clarity. And then I can just play with that until I've got something which brings that back, and maybe just a little bit more onto the eyes as well with that clarity. Just helps them stand out. If I go small enough, you can do it with the eyebrows as well with that. And I would tend to just do the lips. So that just brings that back. You keep the soft skin, a bit more clarity there. I would love to see a bit more detail of this coat. It's just losing it in the shadows there. So can I do it by just using the black slider? Yeah, that's possibly it, but we're now... I think something like that. So before and after, you see that just bringing it up. I mean, it's a personal touch, on a personal thing on there, and I think, Walter, you've probably desaturated it a little bit, and I'm bringing that back again. So I would go with something like that. So original, final. So just get that light back in there with it. Maybe, yeah, like that. That would be my advice on that one. So was that the last? Yeah, that's the last of them. So, right. So that's the end of the image feedback. I just need to see what's been going on in the comments. Right, so what have we got? Let me just move on with my slides. Yeah, the Q&A live. What have we got in chat? Tripods. What advice have I got about tripods? There is an old cliche with tripods, the same one as with cameras. The best tripod is the one that you've got with you. So, what does that mean? It means that tripods are a balancing act, literally, as well as balancing your camera. It means that if you get one that is really heavy and sturdy and is your camera is rock solid on, the chances are it's going to be too heavy and you won't take it anywhere, which means it's useless. I would rather have a cheap, lightweight tripod that I'm going to carry with me than a big, heavy one that I'm not. I have lots of tripods. A lot of them I've inherited, a lot I've just acquired for other reasons. My main tripod is a 3-section one, which is quite large. It will never go traveling with me. It's just too big, clumsy. I got it for the studio. The other advice I give, I remember I'm doing this off the top of my head rather than preparing it properly, but the other thing I would say is think about what you're going to use your tripod for, and get one accordingly. If you just excuse me one moment, I'm going to nip out of vision, grab 2 tripods, which will help explain this a little bit better. I've just put them down over here before going on air. That's one. And where's my other one? Got it over here. Right. So, 2 tripods. And right, let me see if we can show this a little bit clearer. I have a setup for something like, not that one, that one where I'm in a little bit closer on the screen. This is my travel tripod. It's not the most stable of things. It's got It's got a small ball head on it it's basically a Manfrotto clone on there. I replaced the original one actually. It's a Harmer tripod, but I got a replacement head for it from well, third party one which takes the Manfrotto plates on it. It's small, but when it's extended, and I'm not going to be able to show you the whole, well actually I might be able to. That's going down to the floor, it's locked off. And you can see that's reasonably tall on there. It's a good height for it, it's lightweight, not the world's most stable of tripods. Now, that's not normally a problem with it, except mine's broken. It should have a hook on the base, on the bottom of the stock here, that will allow you to put a weight on. And that's something I would recommend with a tripod. Look for something where you can add weight to it to give it ballast of some way, shape or form. Because then if it's light enough to carry with you, and you can hang your camera bag underneath it to give it a little bit of stability. So that's one for travel. And it's great for travel. That's the one I take with me, and it's the Harmer Traveller Compact Pro. As I say, word of warning, I had to replace the head with a Manfrotto one because it was not quite as stable as it should be. The welding on the base of it on the original wasn't very good. But look for something where you do have the option to change the head on it in one form or another, even with a little tripod like that. So that's the first thing I would recommend. The next one, this is the big beastie. This is the studio one. And this is why I say think about what type of photography you want to do. Because this one will go really high. And this has a feature that I really like, and I wanted when I got it, and that is, I push that up, it allows me to put the camera at 90 degrees, which is great if I'm doing tabletop stuff. I can get the camera over the table to look down. And I use this often when I'm doing artwork photography for clients, things like that. Now, again, you'll notice there's no head on this. And again, that's one of my bits of advice. Get a tripod where you can replace the head. And I always have trouble with it. Got to get this the right way around. It's difficult doing this live on air. There's an outtake of me trying to get this right when I was doing one of my my training videos. That was it. So that goes down. Now, what type of head do you want on your tripod? That's the other thing to think about, is the types of head. And I just happen to have one of my tripod heads here. This is a three-way one. The other one, is it over here? I can't see quite where it is at the moment, but I've got one of the gun trigger heads, and I've got them for different purposes. This is an absolute swine to use for theatre because it's a three-way, rotate, up, down. It is brilliant for things such as when I'm doing client work for billboards and things like that. Or recently I was doing, I went down to Bristol last weekend, and I was doing some photographs of my father-in-law's house, which are now on the estate agent's website to help sell it. And I could deal with one axis at a time in getting the camera level. I use it all the time when I'm photographing billboards for one of my clients. The third head that I have for my big Manfrotto is one you can't see at the moment because it's over there. It's a proper video head, a fluid head on there, and it's on another set. It's actually an old set of Manfrotto legs. The screw mechanism for securing the central columns bust on it, so those legs have been relegated to being the studio video tripod, because when I'm in the studio I don't need to lock it down for video work in the same way as I do for other things, so I don't use it for that, but it does get used for video work. So those are the things. It's that balancing act on there. Just having a look at the comments in here. Kev says he's broken so many lightweight travel tripods. Yeah, I've gone through a few, but there's more through age rather than anything with mine. And Kev, well, actually, if I do that, you can all see the comments as well. In the end, he spent money together, better quality travel tripod from three-legged thing, and he's not managed to break it yet. And right, John Bamber. Sorry, I was getting slightly confused on this because we've got Jill Bembo on the thing. I just saw the name Bembo on there, and John's saying he uses a standard Bembo and travel Bembo, which he says are both bomb-proof. I've never used either, so I can't comment on that. But that's my general thoughts on tripods, just off the top of my head, an impromptu talk. At some point, I probably ought to record a proper video about that and show the different heads in detail and the different things on there. The other thing to think about with tripods is don't be afraid of if the only thing you've got available to you is a lightweight, shaky tripod. I have one. I've not got it here. It's designed for tiny compact cameras. It's about so big, but it actually will stand to about so high on there. It's a really weird one, but it is so shaky that you'd never think about using it. But actually, I can use it. I can even use it with my DSLR, so long as I use mirror lockup and either self-timer or a cable release on there, so that any vibrations have settled down before I take the shot. And I have done that, and I can get away with that kind of thing on it. So think about that. Also, as I said, Gary, think about what you want for what you're using the tripod for, and get the appropriate head for it. If you're doing theatre photography, a pistol grip head is probably the thing to look for, because that's really easy to get your camera in the right position and you can go with it. And that's why I got my pistol grip head. Not that I use the tripod much for theatre photography these days, but if I was doing a job where I was stuck at the back and I was having to use a really long lens, then yeah, I would use it just to help me with the stability on it. But if I'm doing macro stuff, then this kind of thing where I can control one axis at a time works best for it. If I'm doing video, a proper video head with a fluid head where you can pan and tilt much more smoothly is what you require. If you're doing tabletop stuff, think about having that column that goes over. If you're doing macro stuff, and here's the other one to comment about, is think about being able to get the legs right out, and I always struggle to do this. That's why, because the strap's on there. You can see how far out those legs go. They will go out as far as I need it to. look out that far, which means I can get the tripod really low down on it. And with things like that, you can get your camera really low on it. So again, even something like this has got that capability, and it's a turn and there, and you can see I can get the legs out further. And actually with this one, again, with this one, so you can see a little bit better, the central stock, try and do it so you can see, the central stock comes off. It takes forever and lands on the floor, so that you can then get the tripod really low down. So those are the sort of things to think about with the Manfrotto. To get it low down with the legs straight out, that's where you need to bring the central stock up and tilted. So here we go again, and through. So something like that is how I would do it. So then with the legs right out, I could get this. I could have this flat on the floor, basically, as you can see. I'd still have that camera really low down. So those, again, different things to think about, and the answer is, as ever, it depends. It depends on what you want to do with it, whether you want to be carrying it around all the time. So that's my general advice. Think about also other alternatives like bean bags for resting the camera on something. And there is one other alternative. I'm just looking to see whether it's to hand. Don't think it is, that I've got. And that is a clamp version. I have got a clamp, not a Gorilla Pod type, but a clamp, more like an A-clamp really. They're designed for lights and speed lights, but you can mount a camera on it as well. And it's just a way of attaching the camera to a railing or something like that as well. So hopefully that's answered the question. So just to wrap up this extra session, so thank you for joining me on it. And thank you for everyone who's allowed me to rabbit on about their photos. Hope there was something in there that you found useful. So as ever, my usual plea, if you found it useful, please subscribe, please comment, and please hit the like button. We've got 6 likes so far and 9 viewers. Next time, Sunday night, we will be back at our usual slot. We're looking at street photography. Remember to post your images in the Facebook group, and I'll pick some of those, and hopefully I'll be able to talk about them on Sunday night rather than having to do an extra session for it. So that's that, and that's it for the evening. As ever, folks, thanks for watching, and keep making great photos, and I'll see you on Sunday.